Have you ever gone through a time in your life when it felt like your witchcraft practice slipped away? Not because it stopped mattering to you, not because you stopped caring about it, but because your life got too busy or your energy was waning or something else got in the way. So tonight's episode is all about magical maintenance, how to keep your practice alive, even in those times when your life is full and your energy is limited, or you don't have the time for those elaborate rituals and spells that you used to do. Because your practice doesn't have to be perfect to be your practice. So, merry meet. I'm Aislin. This is Ask Aislin. And tonight we're here talking about magical maintenance, keeping your practice alive when life gets busy. So I'm Aislin, and we are going to talk through a topic that's very, very important to me. But before I do, leave a heart or a thumbs up somewhere in the episode. It just helps us get this out to more people and tells the algorithm that this video is important. So as always, we'll have a Q&A at the end. Leave questions and comments as we go. I'll be watching that chat, and let's dive in. Your witchcraft does not have to disappear when your life gets busy. And I know from talking to a lot of you, that's sometimes what it seems like. And I know from my own experience, that's also sometimes the way that it feels. It just may need to get a little bit smaller, maybe a little simpler, or a little bit more woven into your day-to-day life in order to make it work when life is really pulling you in all directions. But it can still be meaningful, and that's what I hope that you take home with you by the end of this episode. By the end of the episode, you're going to have a few simple practices and ideas that you can use at your very busiest or the times when you're feeling like mentally or emotionally not able to do your full practice. We're also going to have some ideas for how to return to your practice after a time when you've been away from it without feeling guilty or shamed, and just to help you get back into everything. So, why do busy seasons disrupt our spiritual practice? Well, there's a lot of reasons, and I'd love if you're in the chat with us, I'd love for you to let us know how you are doing with your practice right now. Do you feel like you're able to do what you want to do in your spiritual practice, or do you feel it's lacking? Does it not measure up to your expectations of it? I'd love to hear from you. And also let us know, what do you do when you've fallen off of your practice? How do you help? How do you help yourself get back into it? So there's going to be a lot of ideas tonight, but as I always say, we all benefit from hearing from each other. After all, this is a circle, right? So why do we fall off of our spiritual practice at times? Well, it's not because we don't care about it, and sometimes we will tell ourselves these narratives like we're just lazy, or if it mattered, I would do better at this, or maybe I'm not as good of a witch as I thought I was. We may be comparing ourselves to other people and other things that we see. We also may be comparing ourselves to unrealistic expectations, aesthetics that we think are being, are supposed to be what we should be doing. The reality is, why do we fall off of the practice? Well, when our rhythm changes, everything else around us changes too. It's kind of unfair of us to continue to hold ourselves up to the same standards of what we can do when we're feeling good physically and mentally and emotionally than when we're not. It's not really a fair standard for us to hold ourselves up to. So I'm here to tell you today that if you feel that your spiritual practice is lacking, or if you've fallen off of what you usually do, it's not because you're lazy, it's not because you're unserious, it's not because you're undisciplined or you're a bad witch. It's none of those things. It's because your daily life has shifted. And the practices that worked for you in one season of your life, they may not fit in the next one. So, for example, a practice that worked for you during the quieter winter months might not work for you when summer comes and all of your kids are off of school, right? A practice that worked for you when your work schedule was pretty regular and stable might not work for you when you are working overtime, or you're launching something new for a business, or you're covering extra shifts, or you are caregiving someone, or you're dealing with extra family stress. A practice that worked for you when you had the emotional capacity for it might not work for you when your nervous system is dysregulated. or if you're just trying to get through your day. So I hope as we open up this episode, you may see yourself in some of these examples. I hope that you can meet yourself with kindness and grace. And rather than kind of beating yourself up about how you may have felt like you failed in your practice or you failed as a witch, hopefully you can really open up and be receptive and listen to what I'm saying tonight. So when life gets more demanding, your nervous system is naturally going to prioritize what seems the most important at that time. And that may be deadlines or appointments or bills or health issues or work demands or immediate emotional stress. Your spiritual practice often does not feel urgent in the same way as some of those other things do. Your spiritual practice still matters very, very deeply to you. That is true. But it's not yelling at you as loudly as everything else around you. And so if you think of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and for those who don't know what it is, Maslow's hierarchy of needs is a pyramid. And in that pyramid, it shows us all the different things that a human being needs. And at the very base of that pyramid are all of your, like the most physical needs. We need air and we need water. Outside of that, we can go without food for quite some time, but we need air and we need water, right? And then we need food. And then, we can live with all of those things, but maybe we can live without shelter, right? But then we need shelter. That becomes the next need. And then eventually when all of those needs are met, then our needs become more about the emotional, the connections that we have to family and friends. And then eventually when those things are met, our needs become more about what fulfills me, right? What helps me actualize find self-actualization. We might call this the spiritual enlightenment that we're all seeking. But if we don't have all those needs met at the bottom base of the pyramid, it's going to be really hard for us to self-actualize or spiritually evolve. So that doesn't mean that you can't, it just means that your priorities will shift. So when you're dealing with a lot of things, it naturally makes sense that the spiritual falls to the wayside because those other things are yelling more loudly because they're needed more. They're needed for you to survive, whereas your spirituality is not needed to keep your body functioning. So really think about that, and think about where you are, with your needs. Like, do you feel that your basic needs are being met? And if not, then I really hope you listen and open up to what's here. If you feel like your emotional needs are not really being met right now, then that too could be a reason why you would fall off the spiritual practice. It's really important for us to reframe what it means to be in spiritual practice, or even to reframe what it means to be a witch. Our practices don't have to be aesthetically beautiful to be practices that work for us, right? They don't have to be judged or measured up to other people. Just like there are seasons of your life when you'll be in it and you'll feel ready for deep ritual and extended spell work and elaborate, shadow work and all of that, there are also going to be times and seasons of your life that are for maintenance and maintenance practices. And that's really what this episode is about, to hopefully open you up to what that means, because maintenance practices are not lesser in any way. They are what keep your spiritual relationship alive and connected until you have more time and more energy again. It's what helps get you through, but still keeps you connected. And you're going to see at the end why maintenance practice is so important, rather than just doing nothing for a long period of time and then trying to get back into it and do these big things. If you can keep a small maintenance practice going throughout the rough times, you can find it so much easier to get back in. So I've practiced for a very long time, and I can tell you that no one can keep the same level of practice the entire time. And if anybody tells you that they can, well, maybe they can, but I would venture to say they might be twisting the truth a little bit, because the reality is you can't do the same thing every month, every year, every week, every day, because your energy isn't the same throughout those times. The idea that a real witch is always doing something big and some big elaborate ritual work is just unrealistic. Life has seasons, and our practice has to be able to move with those seasons. So I'm going to get in now. We're going to talk about why is all or nothing thinking really problematic in witchcraft. But again, I encourage you to share in the chat. How are you resonating with this topic? Where do you feel like you are right now? Are you in maintenance? Are you trying to be there? Or maybe you're in a season of your witchcraft where you're really feeling it and you're connected and you're doing the big things. But let us know. Share in the chat. I'm going to jump in a minute and say hi to everybody. But let's just continue for a moment with all or nothing thinking and how detrimental it is to our witchcraft. So a lot of people will fall out of practice because they believe if they can't do it right or perfect, or they can't do the full version of whatever it is they want to do, then they shouldn't be doing it all, or they can't be doing it all. And I think that this is one of the biggest traps. I know that, the reason I'm doing the episode in the first place is because I know a lot of people have told me that this is a problem for them, but I also know that I resonate very much with this topic as well. I have been in those places where I felt if I can't do something big, then I really shouldn't do it at all, or I talk myself out of it, or things like that. So people may think, well, if I can't do this whole big full moon ritual, then why even bother, right? Or people think if I can't meditate deeply, then why even bother to sit down? If I can't do the spell perfectly, why should I do anything at all? So if you're resonating with any of these, or things similar to them, you are not alone. More people than you realize feel the same way, myself included at times. But the mindset, is going to quickly turn our witchcraft just into another place where we feel like we're failing. And in a world that's pretty dark, as our world is turning darker and darker by the day, it can feel like we're failing in a lot of things. It can feel like we're failing financially, or we're failing our partners or our kids, or our work or something like that, or our aspirations of what we want our career to be. We don't need witchcraft to be another place where we feel like we're failing. So your practice does not have to be impressive in order for it to be real. It just needs to be yours. And you'll see, as I've said before, the most important key is the consistency. It's really all that matters, is we stay consistent and we show up more often than we don't. That's the most important thing, not what we do. So I think it's important for us to really think about, when it comes to our witchcraft, thinking about a performance witchcraft versus relationship witchcraft, because the witchcraft that we need during maintenance is the witchcraft that builds the relationship that we have with the spiritual world, with our guides, with our deities. It doesn't have to be the performance, right? It's fine to be in performance sometimes. I can certainly tell you that when I'm leading big, especially in-person rituals, but also some of the online ones, it is a performance sometimes, right? At least from my role there. I have to do something big and good, right? So that everybody likes it and they feel like they connect to it. But that's not really we're not going to be able to maintain that kind of witchcraft on a day-to-day level with the way our lives change day to day. So sometimes we can accidentally turn our witchcraft into something that has to look a certain way because we've decided it has to, right? We think that, we look at others and we see what we think they're doing, and we're like, well, we have to measure ourselves up to them. We have to kind of hold ourselves up to those standards. Or we read in books these big elaborate rituals that have, 30 ingredients, and we struggle to find them. We trick ourselves into thinking that the witchcraft has to be a certain way, or that it's not good enough if it doesn't look witchy enough, or if it doesn't look aesthetically pleasing, if it's not something we can take a picture of and put on Instagram, right? That it has to be timed correctly, or that it has to have or include all the right tools. It's not really what witchcraft is about. And I know that you know this deep in your heart, because I do too, but I also know that it's sometimes hard. It's easier to say it than to actually experience it and put it into practice. But remember, witchcraft is also whispering a protection charm as you leave the house, right? Witchcraft is placing your hand on your heart and calling your energy back when it feels like it's scattered. Witchcraft is stirring intention into your morning coffee or tea. Witchcraft is kissing and blessing your keys before you put them in the ignition of your car. So these things also count. And if you find yourself discounting them, well, I hope that you can change that way of thinking by the time this episode is through. That doesn't mean that we're not going to do the deeper work, because of course we are. There are going to be times where we're going to dive in and we're going to do that deep work and we'll have that energy. We're probably only going to have that energy because we took care of ourselves on the way there. And when we went through the hard times, we maintained our practice. We pulled back and we didn't feel guilty about it, but we kept showing up even with those little tiny things, right? And that's how we get to the deeper stuff. If we don't, what we tend to find is that we're always catching up. We're always, trying to catch up on sleep or catch up on exercise or catch up on this or that. And then we just find that we're always kind of running on empty, or we're running on nothing, and our witchcraft practice is just scattered and all over the place. But if we really take the time to figure out what magical maintenance means for us, you will have the energy for those big practices when the time comes. The smaller practices will help us stay connected so that when we do have space for the deeper work, we're not starting from a place of guilt or disconnection. And at the end, I'm going to tell you especially why that is very important, and the biggest kind of pitfall and trap that people have when they try to come back, and why the magical maintenance practice is so important before you get there. But before I do, I just want to look over and see and welcome those who are joining us here in the chat. So Merry Meet, everybody. So I see Lisa is here, Merry Meet. Angie says, it's definitely not where I want to be, but I try not to be too hard on myself. Excellent. So that is great. And we're going to talk about what the main maintenance mindset is all about. And what Angie said there is exactly part of it. So we try not, if it's not exactly what you want it to be, we try not to have those negative feelings about it. Merry Meet to Elizabeth. Jason said, I'm doing pretty good so far for the summer. That's great. But he said, better than I expected, but I am missing my morning meditations more often since my youngest daughter has started on summer break. And of course, so when the schedule shifts, it's going to be very common for, your practice to shift as well. And so maybe when your daughter is done with summer break, you'll find it easier to be able to get back into your morning meditations. And just remember that, right? And I hope that, at least tonight, I hope that it gives you the validation that it's okay to be doing what you're doing. And there will be a time when you'll be able to add in more. And also, Merry Meet to Andrea. So say hi if you're here in the chat. It just helps us with the live. If there's more comments, it helps the algorithm tell other people the video is important. And of course, share with us, what is your where are you at with your witchcraft? Do you feel like you're kind of in maintenance? Do you feel like you've got a lot of energy to do the bigger things right now, or do you feel like you're just not doing anything at all? So we'd love to hear from you, no matter where you feel like you are in your practice right now. So let's talk about the maintenance practice mindset. So I think that magical maintenance, it means us being able to create small and repeatable low pressure practices that can keep our connection alive. So I'm going to say that again, because that's probably one of the take home messages of the entire episode. If you miss everything else, take this part with you. Magical maintenance is about creating small, repeatable, and low pressure practices that keep your connection alive. It's the connection to the universe that we're trying to keep alive, the connection to our spirituality, to our guides, to our deities. It doesn't mean that we can't do the bigger things later. It just means we're keeping that connection alive. It's not about doing everything. It's about keeping the thread going, really, right? So here are 3 qualities of magical maintenance. And so if you feel like you are in that period, right, where you need to be doing more maintenance than, and you're feeling like you're lacking some energy, or honestly, summer will sometimes feel like there's a lot of space in it. But if you have kids, and even if you don't have kids, summer fills up really, really fast. And so it can be a time when there is less space, and you may need to do more magical maintenance at this time. And winter time might be the time when you have more space, or fall when things start to slow down. But here are the 3 qualities of magical maintenance practice. So it's small. It has to be small enough that you can do it in your ordinary day. And so that means like, that doesn't mean when you are like yesterday, I had one of the worst headaches I've ever had in my life that literally brought me to tears multiple times. It was so bad. So that is not an ordinary day. So I just want to let you know. I mean, I didn't do anything. I didn't even light my candles because I couldn't do anything yesterday. So your ordinary day is just the regular day when you get up, you go to work, or you whatever it is you do during your day, you're doing that thing. That's your ordinary day. So this is not on your most organized day. It's not on your most spiritually inspired day. It's an ordinary, just kind of busy day. So it has to be small and it has to fit in that ordinary day. The second quality of a magical maintenance practice is that it has to be repeatable. So it should be something that you can do again and again. So you want to make sure that when you pick one, and there's going to be ideas later, and you may actually decide that you've got some ideas of your own as well, but you want to make sure that whatever it is you pick, it's repeatable. And it also has to be low pressure. And I would stress that big time. Low pressure. I'm going to stress that especially if you're somebody who's coming from not doing very much or doing nothing at all. And especially if you're somebody who has a lot of guilt and shame and really negative feelings tied around your practice. You want to make sure that when you're in the maintenance phase of your magical practice, it's very low pressure. It should not create another standard that you can't live up to, right? Or that you could fail at. If your maintenance practice becomes another source of guilt, it's not serving the purpose it's meant to. It's just that means it's just too complicated. So the question is not what should my practice look like? The better question is what keeps me connected? So if you're struggling to kind of figure out what to do, or maybe you've tried to do magical maintenance, or you've tried to do the bite-sized practices before and they don't, and it feels like you continually fall off of that, you may be asking the wrong question. The question isn't really what should I do? It's how do I stay connected? And for everybody, that is going to look a little differently. For some people, it's lighting a candle. For me, that's my go-to. It's like lighting the candles. If that's all I do that day, then I've stayed connected. Like I said, last night, I mean, I'm telling you, I was in bad shape. And so I couldn't even do the candles. And that's okay if you're in those spaces too. I'm telling you the story so that sometimes we have those days and we can't even do the smallest things, right? So for one person, it could be lighting a candle. That's how they stay connected. For another person, it might be pulling the daily card. That's how they stay connected. For still another person, it might be touching the ground, making sure they're going outside and they're feeling the earth or they're feeling the sun on their skin, or maybe they're tending to their plants. Maintenance practice is especially helpful because it is going to keep your spiritual life from becoming something separate from your regular life. I think that's what's so important about it, is it just becomes like part of the routine. Whereas like a big practice feels a little bit different than my regular day-to-day life, right? If I'm going to set up everything, it can take me 20 minutes to set up for one of my bigger rituals. And then it takes me time to cast the circle and call the quarters and call the deities and then finally get to the practice in the middle. That's not magical maintenance at all, right? Magical maintenance is something that barely seems different than day-to-day life. For me, that's always been the candles. For you, it might be something different. It reminds us that our magic doesn't have to be what takes place at the altar or on the floor, if you like floor rituals like me, or wherever it is you do your rituals. It reminds us that it doesn't have to take place there. It takes place anywhere, right? It also lives in your body. It can live in your breath, because breath work can be magical maintenance. It can live in your words and your choices. It can live in your home, your relationships, and just the way that you move through your life. And so in a lot of ways, it's sort of like this becoming the lifestyle. When you make this your lifestyle, then it doesn't really matter how much or how little of it you do. It's just you're always doing something, right? You're weaving small things in. I'm going to give you now, as we kind of move into the next part of the episode, I'm going to give you a lot of ideas for practices, but I'm also going to give you some things that you can just weave into your daily life. And that helps you to create the connection. Because remember, hold that kind of question in your mind, or not question, but that kind of idea in your mind. It's less about what you do and more about how you stay connected. So we're going to talk about 3 levels of practice. and they're kind of designed so that you decide on any given day which place you're at. And sometimes, like in the story I told you about yesterday, sometimes you're not in any of the levels. You're just, I'm doing nothing today. But at the very lowest level, the first level is going to be like a 30-second practice. And so what this means is it is something that is going to take you 30 seconds to do. It could be 30 seconds to a minute. These are for the days when you have almost nothing to give. Now, there are some days you will have nothing to give. 30-second practices are on for the days when you have almost nothing to give. And this is all you can do. The purpose here is not to go deep, it's just to keep the connection going. So some examples would be just pausing to take a breath and maybe connecting to yourself. So sometimes when we're so busy, so scattered, so overwhelmed, even that simple act of connecting to ourselves is not there. It's absent, right? So just placing a heart on your hand or your belly, or sorry, placing your hand on your heart or your belly or somewhere that feels good to you. Closing your eyes and just taking one intentional breath. And then just saying something like, I return to myself, or I return to my breath, or I am grounded and centered, or I am connected to the universe, or I am connected to and you can insert the names of your deities, right? Magic is still within me. I call my energy back. If you feel like your energy is kind of scattered and you want to bring it back. So it's literally just pausing. You can do it in 30 seconds. Pause. Put your hands somewhere on your body so you can touch your physical body. Take a breath and just say something to yourself. Another practice that takes 30 seconds is the lighting of the candle practice. So you can light one candle and you can say something if you like, or you don't have to say anything at all. So personally, I don't always say something. I have a couple of different sets of candles going. I've got the ones back here. I've got some on another altar in another room. I go through the rooms. I light all the candles every night. Sometimes I will say something, sometimes I won't. If you want to say something, you can say, like, as this flame burns, may my spirit remember what matters the most, or whatever calls to you. Just say something, some kind of a small affirmation, or say a mantra or something like that. Another small thing that you can do that only takes 30 seconds is touch your altar. So sometimes we're like, oh my God, my altar is a mess and I need to clean it. And so we actually have like 3 levels of things you can do with your altar if the altar is like an important space for you. So at the 30-second level, you're just going to touch your altar. You don't have to clean it. You don't have to organize it. You don't have to put anything on it. You simply touch the altar, or you touch an object on the altar, or maybe you adjust one small thing, right? And that kind of it tells your unconscious, I am still connected to this thing, even when life is crazy and scattered and I don't have much time. You don't even have to say anything here. It's just that one gesture tells your unconscious, I'm still connected to this. Another thing that you can do that takes 30 seconds to a minute is just pulling one card. And this is not to pull one card and ruminate over it and look through books and go crazy over the meaning and ask a bunch of people. It's pull one card and just see the imagery on the card. That's all you've got to do. You can ask a question before you do so. You can say, what do I need to know today? That's often what I will do. Like, what do I need to know today? Another kind of way to frame the question is, what energy would support me best today? Or what is calling for my attention? What is asking for my attention? These are just, the questions are kind of just variations of the same idea. It's just, what do I need to know, right? You don't need to do the full reading unless you want to. Personally, I would just pull the card, kind of look at it. You can even jot it down in a notebook. You can come back to it later. But the point here is we're doing 30 seconds to maybe a minute of work. Another thing that you can do is you can bless your water before you drink it. That's really simple, right? So you can get a glass of water, and you don't even have to infuse it with energy. You just simply put your hands on the glass and say, may this water restore me. May the water restore my spirit. May this cleanse and strengthen me. Something that just brings the energy back into you. May this water bring my energy back. I think that practice is especially useful because it's something you're already doing. You're already drinking water every day, I hope, and so it's just adding a little magical touch to a practice you're already doing. So that's a really good one to do when you can't do anything at all. So let us know in the chat. What do you do on the days when you literally have no time, but you want to do something for 30 seconds to a minute? Do you have any other suggestions and ideas? What do you do when you just don't have the time? Okay, so now there will be some days when you have a little bit more space. So maybe you have 5 minutes. So these are the 5 minute practices. And these are for days when you have a little bit more space, but you don't have the time to do something more extensive or full. So coming back to the idea of your altar, if you want to do something with your altar, so like in the 30-second practice, you just touch the altar, you just make the connection. In the 5 minute practice, we don't have to like clean the whole altar and take the altar cloth off and do a whole overhaul. You just do something. Like your altar, if you're like me, it sometimes has like old matches or candle remains or the leftover like dust from the incense, the dust ash or something like that. Remove that stuff from it. Refill the water bowl, or like if you put things out for the different elements, for example. So like on my altar, there's a bowl for water, a bowl of salt for earth. There's usually like an incense burner for air, and then there is a candle for fire. So if any of those items like, you know, get moved or anything like that, you can, like I said, refill the water, kind of refresh those items. Add one item. So maybe there's an item that basically connects you to the season. Like now we're in Litha season as we're doing this episode. So maybe add one item that connects you to Litha. Maybe you wipe down the surface of the altar. Maybe you light incense or a candle on your altar. Or you speak some kind of a short prayer or intention or mantra. So this turns into more like of a 5 minute practice. It's straightening up. It's not the whole overhaul of the altar, but again, it allows you to stay a little connected. Also, I think in some ways, if you're somebody who feels like you get stressed out when things are out of order or messy or things like that, I think this could be a nice practice for somebody like that because it at least helps you. Maybe you don't have a ton of time, but at least makes you feel like you're doing something to kind of better it, to beautify it in some way. The idea here, though, is don't let it turn into a project that goes past the 5 minutes, because remember, this is in the 5 minute practice section. Another thing you can do, so this is adding on to the kind of the idea of the cards. So in the 30-second practice, you draw one card and you literally just look at it and see what comes to you. In a more 5 minute practice, well, we could turn this into like a bigger spread. So we could do a 3 card pull. You can do, past, present, future if you want. You could, sometimes when I pull 3 cards, I actually don't even have them, they don't even have a meaning. I just ask what I need to know, and then I pull 3 cards. By pulling 3 cards and kind of looking at them and reflecting on them, obviously this is going to take more time than when I just pull 1 card and do it. But if you do want, you want specific like intentions for each card, you could have one mean, what is present or current in my life right now. Second card could be, what do I need? And the third card would be like, what is the next step I could take? You can also look online for 3 card spreads, and there's so many different ones that you'll be able to find, and just find that one that resonates for you and then do that. In our Body Mind Witchcraft group, I often will share spreads, usually like at dark moon and full moon in the Sabbats. You can always use any of those. Sometimes the dark moon, the dark moon ones don't have to be done at the dark moon. The full moon ones don't have to be done at the full moon. You can do those at any time. I want to make sure, though, in the 5 minute practice that you're keeping the interpretation simple. It's not meant to be like a really deep dive, again, unless you have the energy for it. Otherwise, I really suggest that you just spend some time contemplating the cards, look at the imagery, kind of decide what they mean, for you. Maybe look at the book afterwards if you want, but again, kind of try to keep this confined to 5 minutes. If you're not into cards, you could also do something similar with runes or with a pendulum if you just want to do some divination. But again, try to keep it confined to 5 minutes. It's really going to help you out a lot, especially if you're somebody who's really just returning to the practice or you have a lot of shame or guilt or things like that. Another 5 minute practice that you can do is shower cleansing, which is great because you have to take a shower anyway. So as you take the shower, you can imagine the water carrying away all the things that you don't need. You can say something like, "What is mine stays with me, and what is not mine leaves," or goes down the drain, or whatever you want to say. You can also do something where you're kind of releasing. So, like, I release the noise of the day and I return back to my own energy. So I think this practice is really nice. You can add, because it is a 5 minute practice, you can add a couple of extra touches to it if you want. You can use essential oils or herbs. Especially because it's a shower practice, you can put herbs into like a piece of cheesecloth and then tie it to your shower, to the shower head. So as the water comes down and it creates steam, it's going to kind of add some of these herbs to your energy in your space. Another thing that you can do that I had mentioned a while back is to take a bar of soap and you can draw some kind of a sigil on it. And then every time that you use that soap, it's adding that energy to you. But again, remember, this is a 5 minute practice. It's not meant to be overwhelming or anything like that. We're just confining it. I also think that again, this is like stirring, intentions into your water or into your coffee or your tea. This is a really good maintenance practice to have and use because you are already showering. So you just have to add the extra touch to it. If you want to do some cleansing of your space, that's also something that can be good and takes about 5 or so minutes. It doesn't have to be like a smoke cleansing. If you like smoke cleansing, totally take your sage stick or whatever kind of herbal bundle you use. Take that around your space. I like to go around the doorways and the windows. Go around the perimeter of the room. If smoke is not something that you're able to use, you can also cleanse through sound, through sprinkling water. So with sound, you would, could ring a bell or shake a bell or something, or rattle or something like that and go around the space. You can do water or salt. With salt, I would just be careful if there's pets in the house. You don't want to use a lot of salt. You can sprinkle a bit around the perimeter, but just be aware you don't want to use a ton. Water, you can use as much as you want. Even visualization is good too. You don't have to have any of the tools. You can just use your own mind and visualize kind of white light or golden light or energy kind of surrounding the space. Another thing, sweeping too. You can use a broom and sweep things, sweep to the edges of the space. You can go around just one room or multiple rooms if you want. But again, remember, this is part of the 5 minute practices, so we don't need to get really elaborate. It's just doing something for 5 minutes. You can also use a spray. If you can't do smoke cleansing, you can take some of the herbs and put them in water or witch hazel or something like that, and then you can use that as a room spray as well. If you like to do journaling, you can do a 5 minute journaling. So you can just journal on freely, what do I need today? Or what am I carrying that's not mine? It kind of depends on where you are, where your energy is. Decide which prompt makes the most sense to you. What would help me feel more connected to right now? That would be a good one. Or what is one small act that I could do today with my magic? So again, the idea here is 5 minutes. With all of these practices in this section, yes, they could go longer, but we don't want you feeling overwhelmed and feeling like you have to do more. So if it helps you, set a timer. I've been starting to do that a lot because I have the Apple Watch and I just set 15 minutes if I want to do like a 15-minute practice, 5 minutes if I want to do 5 minutes, and then it's contained. And when the timer goes off, it's over and you've done your connection and then you can move on. So there's also level 3. So when we get to level 3, so before we go to level 3, share in the chat if any of these are resonating with you. I'll go back to the chat for a moment, but if any of these are resonating with you, let us know. Um, let's see here. So Angie said, it's a hard learned lesson in all areas of my life. She said that my energy isn't the same every day, every month, every year. Witchcraft, exercise, creativity, everything really. Absolutely. And I think that it's a hard lesson for everyone to learn. I know I totally relate to that a lot. It's just, if we think that we're always going to show up the same way every day, we're going to find ourselves disappointed in ourselves. It can create the shame and the guilt and all those things. And those things become crippling, and then they keep us from the practice, and it becomes this never ending cycle. So if we learn how to listen to our energy, and like we know when our energy is low, then those are the days to do the 30-second practices. When we know that our energy, we got a little bit more, then those are the days to do the 5-minute practices. And then sometimes we're in the height of our energy and we're feeling awesome. And those are the days to do the 20+ minute practices that we're about to talk about. But I do think, yeah, it can be a very hard lesson to learn. And Angie's right. It can be about all kinds of things, not just our witchcraft, right? Some days we have a lot of time to exercise, and some days we only have a few minutes just to move, right? To stand up and move a few feet, right? Samantha says, I'm retired with lots of time and little to do. I spend lots of time doing little, and I'm really good at it. Yeah, I mean, I will say, I am not retired and haven't been before, but I have been. I did spend a period of time on disability for quite some time, and I think others who've been on disability or are on disability can relate to this as well. Like, I remember when the period of time started, and I was on disability for some of it, and then during another part of it, my boyfriend at the time told me to just quit my job and work on my art, which is awesome, right? But sometimes without the structure, I had all these big plans to do, and I would just find myself like watching Law and Order all day long. So it's like sometimes without the structure, we would think it would be, we'd have lots of time, but we, like Samantha says, you end up like not doing a lot, right? And you spend like she said, spending your time doing very little. So sometimes it can help to get a little bit more structure and be like, maybe what a person could do is kind of check in with their energy in the morning and say, is this a 30-second day? Is this a 5-minute day? Or is this a 20-minute day? And then let that guide you towards, like, what the spiritual practice is that you're going to do for that day. Samantha said, I'm there with magical maintenance. Every day I spend hours of spiritual journaling, looking within, counting my daily blessings. And that's good too. So, like, there's lots of time. Sometimes there's a lot of times to do things, and sometimes there isn't. Lisa said she likes to light a candle, incense if there's time. Angie said, I greet the directions, the elements, my ancestors. That's another great one. That's a great one that, depending on how elaborate it is, it could be a 30-second one, or it could be more like a 5-minute one when a person has more time. Andrea says, love shower cleansing and shower meditation. Yeah, I do too. Again, because it's already woven into your life, and, you know, it's always something that you have to do anyway. So why not add that little spiritual touch to it, right? Okay, so let's get back, and we're going to talk about the 20-minute practice. And it looks like I'm going to have to like speed it up, or I'm running out of time here. I just realized. Okay, so let's talk about that. So in the 20-minute practice, this is for days when you have a bit more time and you feel like you're more ready and able to be more engaged. And again, this is a 20+ minute practice. You can go as long as you want. You don't have to confine it to 20 minutes. But if you are feeling good, but you're not feeling super great, I would recommend, again, 20 minutes on the timer, so you don't just let it extend and then you start to feel guilty about it. But again, sometimes there's days like when I've got the full day to do anything, then if that's where it's good to just kind of go off script, let the practice go as long as you want. So you can do like a simple candle spell. So rather than just light the candles, now we're doing something a little bit more. So we could choose an intention, choose a candle, put a little more thought into the color of the candle that we're choosing. Take some time to cleanse yourself and your space a little bit. You can dress the candle up by rolling it, infusing it with oils, rolling it in herbs. You can carve sigils into it. So there's lots of ways that we can make the candle practice a little more elaborate. And then just speak your intention out loud if you want. Sometimes I like to just say it in my head. And then let the candle burn down for as long as you want or as little as you want. And then close the spell with some gratitude, maybe a little gratitude practice, and just say 3 things that you're grateful for. So it doesn't have to be elaborate again, doesn't have to be a big ritual, don't have to cast the circle, call all the quarters unless you want to. But this allows you to do something that's a little bit bigger than some of these other practices, but still confined into that 20-minute space. Now, talking about the altar now. So if you have more time and we're going to work on the altar for 20 plus minutes, well, now you could really clear the whole altar off. Take the whole thing off. I've really got to do that eventually. But I'm also not going to feel guilty about it because I can clean it up. I can do small things with it on it when I have more time. I can do the bigger thing where I take the cloth off, take all the items off, wipe the altar down, remove any old offerings that are left over, add fresh water or flowers, herb stone symbols, maybe add some touches for the season if you want, and then speak a blessing over the space. So again, it's not about fixing your altar. It's just tending to the relationship you have with the altar, and therefore the relationship that you have with the universe. You can turn your quick shower into a longer bath. So a short ritual bath or a foot soak, that's cool too. You could do a foot soak, self-massage. So there's something in Ayurveda called abhyanga where you take an oil, you kind of heat it a little bit between your hands, and then you just take time to massage all parts of your body. So a lot of times people like get totally naked and you massage all parts of your body, and then you get in the shower and wash it off. If you don't have the time for that, you could just massage your shoulders, your neck, your face, if you don't mind putting oil on your face, your arms, and you could do kind of like an upper body massage if you want. It has a lot of health benefits, but I think spiritually it also helps to connect ourselves to just doing good self-care, which to me, good self-care is the gateway to good spiritual care, right? In the bath, you could do a small mini meditation if you've got the time. You could put herbs and oils into the bath and just really soak in there for 20 minutes rather than having to just take the 5-minute shower. If you got 20 minutes, you can go outside and sit with a plant or sit by a tree. Really put your hands down into the earth and listen and just sit there. Just sit there for 10 or 15 minutes. Feel free to set the timer if you want, and just spend that time with the earth. So, when you're thinking about what your 20-minute practice will be, again, it's not meant to create guilt. It's not meant to create shame if you don't do it. It's really about assessing in the beginning of the day or at the time when it's ready to do the practice. What do I have the space for? What do I have the energy for? Do I have the energy for the small little 30-second thing? Do I have the energy and space for the 5-minute thing? Or can I go 20 minutes or even more? I think that as you do this more too, you're going to start to really understand your energy better. In the beginning, you might feel guilty and be like, I feel guilty that I'm not doing 20 minutes. I can only do 30 seconds today. But I think if you continue this and as you see the relationship and the connection really strengthen to you and your spiritual practice and the universe, then you're going to start to drop some of that guilt because you know that every type of practice has its place within your greater practice. So the other thing is that there are ways, so on the days that you're really bad off, when sometimes it feels like it's hard to even be able to take the time out to do the 30-second practice, it can be helpful to think of ways to just weave magic into your everyday life. So these are some everyday magic practices that don't require any extra time because they're likely already things that you are doing. The easiest thing that is going to sustain you, especially when you are feeling really disconnected or really short on time or really kind of emotionally or physically or mentally tired, it's going to be easiest for you to connect to things that are just adding to what you're already doing. So it's really about kind of enchanting the mundane around you. So in your morning coffee, in your morning tea, in your morning drink, stir clockwise, add a little intention to it if you want. I stir in peace or calm or health or love. And then you can stir counterclockwise and you can say, and I release, and then say whatever it is that you're releasing: anxiety, distraction, anything that isn't mine, whatever appeals to you or applies to you. When you wash your hands, imagine it's not just like physical, it's actually energetic as well. So while you're using soap and water on the physical level, imagine clearing away any energy that you don't need to carry, and then just say something like, I release what isn't mine to carry. You don't even have to do anything, right? It's just you're adding to something that you're already doing. I mentioned this in the beginning with your keys. Before you leave your house, hold your keys and say, may I move safely and may I return safely. You can also do that before you get in the car. When you put on your shoes, you could say something like, may my steps be protected and purposeful, or whatever appeals to you. But just the little incantation as you put on your shoes. At your doorway, you can say something as well when you cross the threshold, may I be protected as I go out into the world. You can, while you're cooking, you can stir intentions into your food. You got to cook. Well, not everybody's cooking. I don't cook. But if you are the cook, or even if you can stir your food after it's been made for you too, right? You can stir it a little bit and then choose a quality that you'd like to draw in: peace, strength, courage, healing, love, protection, connection. And just stir that and bless your food with that energy. At bedtime, you can place your hand on your heart or on your belly, and you can just say, I release the energy of the day and I return to myself, and it's safe to rest now. So I think that why these practices work so well is they're attached to things that already exist in your life. You're already drinking water, you're already taking a shower or a bath, you're already opening doors, you're already washing your hands, and you have to go to sleep every night. So you can make these moments rituals just by adding that little tiny little step. So I kind of wanted to conclude here with what to do if you've fallen off, okay? And how to return back and feel good about it. So the way that you return back to your spiritual practice, I really do think it matters because it sets you up for whether you'll be successful or not with it. Many people make the mistake of turning their return into a punishment. And if you have ever felt that way, you don't need to feel guilt. It's just you need to listen and you just need to hear this so that you can do something different the next time. But many people think, I've been gone so long, I need to do something big to make up for it. So if you resonate with that, you're not alone. Sometimes people will think that it has to be this big production when I come back because I've been gone for so long. But you don't need to prove anything to yourself or to your practice. You just need to return. So the best way to do this is to not feel shame. You don't need to have some big dramatic restart. You just need to come back and make one act of connection. So when you come back, don't think you've got to reorganize your whole altar all at once or create a huge daily routine or promise yourself that you will do something every single day for the next, 3 months, or buy a bunch of new tools or decide that you have failed and need to start over. You don't need to do any of those things because all they're going to do is create pressure, and more pressure is why you fell off of your practice in the first place, likely. So pressure isn't going to make it better when you come back. It's just going to make it worse. So what you should do instead is just one small act. This whole episode has been about that, right? Light a candle. I'm back. Say a prayer. Pull a card. Clean one of your altar items. Replace one offering somewhere. Open your journal and just write 3 sentences about being back. Step outside and take a breath, or just simply say, I am here again. Announce that to your guides, to your deities, to the universe. So I think that, you want to try to keep it as simple as you can, because again, remember, the reasons why you left were because you were overwhelmed or your life pulled you away. And likely it's hard to come back. You don't need to make it harder than it has to be. So just start small and then build up. If you start just doing the 30-second practice every day when you're coming back, and you try to release all that guilt and that all or nothing thinking, before you know it, there'll be time to be doing the 5-minute practices and the 20-minute practices and then the 20-minute plus practices. Because your sustainable practice is only built when you keep it simple enough for you to do. It doesn't have to be perfect, doesn't have to be constant intensity, doesn't have to be the same every single day. Some days can be 30 seconds, some days 5 minutes, some days 20 minutes. And it doesn't mean that you can never miss a single day. Look what I told you yesterday. I literally couldn't even light my candles for the gods. I kind of said, I'm sorry, guys. I just, in between my crying fits, I'm in too much pain. You just need to return, right? You just need to return, and it is a skill. And I think the best advice I can give you is just to not beat yourself up over it. So just to kind of recap, what we said here, your practice does not have to be perfect in order to be powerful, and it doesn't have to be elaborate in order to be real. If you've fallen away from this, you're not starting over with nothing. Your connection to the universe is always there. Whether you show up or not, it's always there for you. You're returning to a relationship that has been waiting for you. And if you kind of keep that in mind, it's going to help. Now remember that busy seasons will disrupt your practice, and it can and often will disrupt your practice because your life rhythms change. All or nothing thinking is what is going to keep us disconnected. So the sooner that we can release all or nothing thinking, the better. Our maintenance practice is what we do to keep the thread alive and to keep the connection going. It's not about what we do, it's about how we connect. The 30-second, the 5-minute, and the 20-minute practices will give you many options depending on what kind of energy you have on that day. And also remember, on the days when you have nothing to give, sometimes just everyday magic can be woven into what you just already do. So if you start to make it a practice, it doesn't even feel like anything. It's just like, oh, I'm taking my tea and I'm stirring an intention into it. It's not even something I'm thinking about. It's just something that's become as simple as drinking tea, right? And returning after falling off of your practice does not require shame or dramatic restarts or anything like that. It's just a return. You're just coming back, just say, here I am, light a candle, and you're back. So let us know in the chat, what is one small practice that you think you can realistically keep this week? Or what is your favorite tiny act of magic? We'd love to hear from you. And I am going to move into the Q&A, which this week we didn't have any questions that were left for me except for one question, which happened to ask this very question, which was, what do I do when I'm doing nothing at all? So I think this whole entire episode helped to answer that question. But if you have any other questions for me, it doesn't have to be about what we talked about today. It could be anything about witchcraft, magic, or shadow work. Leave them in the chat. If I'm live, I'll answer them now. If you're watching back in replay, I always go back and I look through the episodes. I'll answer your questions then. So while I'm waiting to see if there's any questions, I'm just going to let you know what's coming up. So I think next week on 6:30, I am going to do an episode on using the law of magnetism So I'm going to share with you like 8 principles that I've learned about the law of magnetism and how they can help you create the life that you desire. So it's a good episode. It's going to take place one day after the full moon, but we'll still be in that kind of full moon energy. I think it's good for the full moon, but magnetism is just a useful skill to understand and learn how to create, how to become the magnet for the life that you want. So let me go ahead and jump into the chat here. Lisa said taking a quick walk would be a good 20-minute practice. Yeah, that'd be an excellent one. I think a quick walk could even be a good 5-minute practice for the days that you don't have enough time for the 20 minutes. But yeah, a walk is excellent. I would recommend on the walk that you try to be connected spiritually. So sometimes people are like listening to podcasts and different things when they move, when they walk. And so I would just try to be like connected to what's going on around you. I think it's a great practice. And Lisa said, I would like to start pulling a card every day. Yeah, I think that's a great one. And again, it doesn't take very much time. I would suggest, just pull the card, kind of look at the imagery, kind of think about what it could mean. If you've got extra time, you can always look up what the card means if you want more. But it's a great practice that doesn't take very much time. Um, all right, well, I don't see anything for me in the chat, so I am, as always, very happy to spend Tuesday evening with you. Make sure to leave a heart or a thumbs up in the episode, somewhere in the episode. It helps us get this out to more people. Um, Subscribe to our YouTube channel, Body, Mind, Witchcraft. Our goal is to have that channel monetized by the end of 2026. And every video that you watch, every minute you view, helps us get closer to that goal. Also, if you are not already on our mailing list, I suggest you sign up, and you will get a weekly newsletter from me that includes the link to the replay of this video and also other spells and witchy tips and different things that I share with our mailing list every week. Also, if you sign up for the mailing list, you'll also be sent a free copy of The Witch's Guide to Shadow Work. So I'm just going to go ahead and drop that in the chat right now. And if you are in our Body, Mind, Witchcraft Facebook group, our engagement is really low right now. I think it's from all of the political things that are kind of taking people's attention in the algorithm. But make sure to, if you're not seeing our posts coming up in your feed, make sure to go to the group so you can see it and comment on things and like things. It just helps tell the algorithm these are important posts. Otherwise, the algorithm thinks they're not important and they stop showing them to people. And help us out, right? Because I can only continue the group as long as we continue to have engagement in it. All right, well, until next time, I hope you have a great rest of your evening. I will see you next Tuesday at our next episode on the law of magnetism. And until next time, blessed be.